Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast about the Audubon Park Garden District in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Michael Lothrop, and today we'll be speaking with Tonda Corrente of Femme Fromage and La Boutique at East End Market. Visit them online at lafemmedufromage.com and be sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor, please feel free to message me on Instagram at HelloAPGDPod. Thank you for listening. This episode is brought to you in part by Trevor Brown of Fannie Hillman & Associates. For listings, market trends, helpful home buyer and seller tips, email directly to Trevor at fanniehillman.com or find him on Instagram at TrevorBrown407. And with me today is Tonda Corrente, cheesemonger, owner and operator at Femme du Fromage and La Boutique at East End Market. Welcome, Tonda.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me, Mike.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you are quite busy. You are, as I said, a cheesemonger. You are a storyteller, an educator of cheese. There's so much to know about the world of cheese. It's the language, it's the pairings, the preparation, the origin, the history, the methods, and tasting characteristics. I understand you got your start at a wine shop or multiple wine shops and restaurants, and you found your passion for pairings. You started journaling. Was there a particular cheese that kind of put you in that direction, in that trajectory that you found?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick a cheese that started it all,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. To be honest, I didn't really know much about cheese at all. And when they suggested, by looking at my resume, which may or may not have been a little oversold.
Sure.
It wasn't lies.
Uh-huh.
But, you want to always put your best foot forward.
Of course.
I did. Yeah. And I speak and write strongly.
Okay. Excellent.
So when they read that I had, catering, and that's what I had been doing at the time, that was no joke. But they assumed that I had culinary experience and training and a culinary background, which I did not. And so they just threw me into what was supposed to be their cheese program, and nobody really could tell me or teach me anything. So I don't really think there was one specific cheese. It was the entire folder of stuff that I could order from. It was the entire catalog of all the different companies that I could order from, that I was just like a kid in a candy store.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a woman with a catalog. What could go wrong?
Right.
No budget.
So this was sort of, it was a task that you were given, and that sort of changed the trajectory of things for you.
Totally.
What shop was this that happened?
So that was the very well-known wine room on Park Avenue.
Oh, right.
So they've been open now for, it was 2006 when all of this started. So they opened, I believe, in February of 2006, and I started working there in March. So they didn't really have that part of the program really kind of dialed in.
Yeah.
They had ordered some things, but they certainly didn't have anybody there to run it, take care of it, nurture it, own it. And they couldn't teach me anything. They didn't have the time, but they also didn't have the resources, and they also didn't have the education.
Sure.
And they just knew that they wanted the cheese. And, maybe the owner certainly had some experience with, because he's a massive wine collector. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he did, but you're not going to get the owner of he's a big hotshot lawyer as well, too. So, you're not going to get that kind of time with training. So it really was up to me to figure it out. And, yeah. So,
and it sounds like that wasn't the main focus. And the wine shop has that self-service with the card that you refill credits, and then it's self-pour. It's kind of cool technology. I know it's in a lot more places now.
It was the first of its kind though at that time.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
It was the new up and coming cool spot, and everybody wanted to be there, and so did I, and it was brilliant, and I think it still is. It's one of my favorite places to go, and actually it's one of my favorite places to go and eat cheese. I'm not even lying.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, for sure. I learn things every time I go there, which is cool. So I'm glad that it's done as well as it has.
And you got to kick that whole thing off.
I did.
What a cool thing.
I did. And, they're, and I'm glad that I had that as my start. I'm glad that that was part of my journey. And I'm glad that we, as, local businesses can still be in favor of one another as I continue to proceed with, what my goals are. I've always given the credit to starting there. I mean, it is what it is, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And it was a beautiful thing. So, it's also interesting to note, you just never know when something's going to happen that changes your life.
Yeah.
And you certainly don't know when you're going to find yourself into a position and a job. I mean, I went there for wine sales. That was like my love.
Sure.
You never would. I certainly didn't expect that to be such a life-changing job. And I was only there for less than a year.
Okay.
I looking back, never would have imagined that my life would have started from that, felt like it started from that.
Yeah. It's interesting too, when you just get the nudge from somebody, it's like, okay, I just need you to do this. And it might have been something that you would have found an interest in otherwise, but just being kind of thrust into that world and having to figure it out. And, luckily we have the internet and there's a lot of resources to learn. I understand you've taken some research trips since. I mean, this is many years in the making now. So, so you've studied abroad and learned about the different types of cheeses.
Yeah.
The terroir, the environment that a cheese kind of originates, like that, the grass that the animals eat and the season, and just all of that, all of the factors that go into the qualities of cheeses that we have access to. And so you are curating that experience for people that go and shop at East End, and it's a very special thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And to be honest, when you're talking about terroir and you're talking about regions, and you're talking about soil and grass and seasonality and all of that, you're talking about both wine and cheese worlds. So having been a student for wine for as many years as I had going into, finding cheese 17 years ago, I already understood that relationship. And so to really fully dive into it in a whole different aspect and to understand how the two are so closely related. And I really kind of attribute why wine and cheese, I've always said it's like the oldest romance of time, right? It's romantic, it's scientific, it's passion. It's all about soil, terroir, right? Your rainfall, your seasonal elements. And it's also about the artisan and her raw materials, and I think that it's fascinating that something so simple, grapes, milk, through fermentation and aging and all of this cool stuff in very similar ways, all of a sudden becomes a completely complex, different item, and it's fascinating.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
I
how
love,
closely related they are.
It's beautiful. I love that idea of the love affair and how each unlocks the best attributes of the other, right? When you pair it correctly, and it's like it elevates it, and that's what a good relationship does too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I talk about how oftentimes how the relationship is, you got to find the right person. You got to, just like in life, you got to find the right pairing. Also with cheese and wine, because not every wine and every cheese goes well together. In fact, there's some that are dreadfully awful. So I do that part of the work for you as well, so that you don't have to experience that.
Is it ever helpful to find those ones that are awfully paired in order to figure out what would the opposite of this be? Is that sort of help with the roadmap of it?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's something that just happens along the way while you're eating and drinking and enjoying and socializing. And I don't expect everybody to always have the right pairings with their cheese. Like
Yeah.
you can't.
Sure.
You know,
some of it's subjective. Like your
Totally.
taste might be different from another person's.
Totally.
Right. Yeah, I actually, we had originally met you back pre-East End days. We were, that was at the time when the vendors were being selected for East End. And so we went to one of your pairings and one of your classes at Citrus.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was the restaurant on Orange Avenue. And so that was an amazing first impression, just kind of seeing your enthusiasm and just how like tuned in people were to the storytelling aspect of it. And it just was like, it was this magic thing that happened in the room, just this alchemy of like people being excited about what they were experiencing, those tastes, and you guiding them through it, right? And like knowing how to talk about it, knowing how to have you taste it in the way that you get the most out of it. And that was such an incredible experience. That was the first time that I'd been to something like that. So that was such a cool time.
This.
Yeah. So that would have been like 2011, 2012 time frame.
Yep.
East End opened in 2013, and so you are one of the original vendors.
I am
from that time period.
Yeah, I call myself the grandma.
Yeah, right. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, like
it's a nice role to
generation.
have, and you're so young too. So
Yeah.
it's good to get that role early on.
Yeah.
Grandpa's a nickname that I have too.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got it, but it just kind of fits.
Yeah, there's only 3 of us vendors left from the original, from the OG.
Yeah, be Skybird
Generation
and
one.
Lineage, right? Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so I think it's I certainly also didn't think that I would be doing this as long as I have, or that it would be this successful, or that it would be this supported,
Yeah.
or that I would have the amount of patience and endurance. So all of it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing what just kind of having to be resilient, having to just do something and make it work. What that will yield. It's kind of incredible. And from your shop, it's just so professionally set up. It looks so amazing. The food from there is so good. I had a mac and cheese, grilled cheese sandwich today with
did you?
a side salad, and I might have had to take a nap after it. I did eat the whole thing. I couldn't resist. It was just that good.
Well, thank you.
And it's just as amazing as it sounds. I love that things are going so well there, that you're inspiring people to explore new things, the way that you have everything in your case labeled with, the country and a description of it. All of that's so important to us appreciating the food for what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's like that education, when you learn something about it, that makes you feel closer to it and care about it more.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. It's the education that for me is so important. It's not just the country of origin and the milk type, but also the fact that it's vegetarian. What does that mean? That it's pasteurized, or is it raw milk? Like, we have those little notations on all of our tags so that people can really truly feel like they know what they're getting. And it's easy for my staff as well too, especially as new people come in. It's a daunting task to try to take somebody who might have a line cook experience,
Right.
maybe,
Sure.
Or a cashier experience somewhere else, and all of a sudden now they're in control of a whole cheese case. It's nice not only for the customer but also for our team to be able to just look at something and say, oh yeah, that is. Was that thunder?
That was real thunder. Yeah.
It sounded so weird going through the
Perfect
headset.
Florida experience. Yeah. We need the rain, so this is a welcome thing. It's just
Yes.
going to add some texture to the podcast too.
Yeah, I like it.
Totally good with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. but yeah, education's a big part of what I'm passionate about. My father was an educator. I've always valued that part, and that's been always my quest, is learning like who and the what and what pairs well and where's this from, and it helps you actually really dial in on the whole globe. Not only is it the dairy science, which is another whole massive thing to take on and try to understand. But as you're even just focused in on terroir and like, how is Corsica different from, how is the soil and how is the everything different from, say, the Bordeaux region? It's France is France, but I mean, you've got so many different, just like the United States, you've got so many different regions, so much different, going into the dynamics of everything. And it's just fascinating. And then it makes you just want to travel.
Exactly.
And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to go to these places because then I have these connections and I meet these people and it's like, God, I just got to get over there.
Yeah. It helps you tell the story too, because you've been to the places where the cheese is made, right? Yeah. The farms. Yep. And it's amazing, when you get a cheese that, all of their dairy comes from their farm. It's like a very specific thing. So they're in control of the entire process.
Totally.
That aging, the fermenting, the just the culture itself, every element. And it's such a scientific thing. And the fact that, the earliest recording cheese production was in like 8,000 BC. I was reading 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Which
Crazy.
is wild. It's just like milk and salt and enzymes, right? And figuring out how that works. But the fact that that was figured out so long ago.
Right. Like, how did they figure out to carry the milk in the animal stomach and then realize that enzyme in the animal stomach is what curdles the milk, and then you can separate them, and it's separating the two proteins in the milk strand, and it's just like, what?
Yeah, we find a way, right?
But they were so brilliant back then.
Yeah.
Without modern day education.
Absolutely.
They figured out the entire world, the stars and everything, and it's just it's fascinating. It really is fascinating.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed diving into all of that. And, again, there wasn't anybody that was teaching me this. So this was a self-curated kind of quest for the knowledge and books that I could read and articles that I could dig up and people that I could talk to. But I immediately kind of very much took it upon myself to like teach people like I wanted. And so that class that you were at so many years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah. More than that at this point. Wow. Right. Yeah. That was my quest to try to bring cheese to the people. And I didn't even have my hands on cheese. I mean, I was kind of working in somebody's cheese cooler, but I didn't have a license to sell or anything like that. So I was just working with the restaurants, like trying to help curate their cheese program in hopes that, I would get a class out of it and just start to carve out. I didn't even make money on that stuff. It was like more my passion. There was passion projects.
Sure.
Maybe I made $150. Maybe I got a bar tab or I got a free meal that night. Like, it literally was not sustainable. Yeah. But it was what started me. And that's how most creative jobs do start too, right? This is a creative job, and it's being an entrepreneur and doing what you love and have a passion for. I love capturing those stories on this podcast. I think it's so important just to know, and to connect those dots and understand like why your shop is so special. Like, you are the person that made that happen. You are the person behind that. Thank you. And I understand. So you are, as you mentioned, you're a self-taught chef. You started a catering company in 2005, Tonda's Kitchen. Yeah, so it was all right about the same time. So I'm going to get real with you. All right. And so I was in a situation where I was pregnant and giving my child up for adoption because I couldn't afford to take care of that child. And I was already a single mom with Jaden. And Jaden was probably 7 maybe at the time. And I was all of a sudden now in another situation with somebody who didn't want to be there, who had no intention on being a father. And it was a real hard moment in my life. And I was going through this adoption process. I was going through counseling. I was not working anymore because I'm going through everything I'm going through. And I was already set up with a family who has been amazing this entire time. I was just chatting with her today, and it was, a very open adoption and everything. But it was during that whole process that I was not working, love to cook, love to throw parties,
Yeah.
and my friend was having a Christmas party and he said, hey, do you want to help with the food? And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help. Right. So we, buy a bunch of stuff and I'm cooking it. And he buys a bunch of chafing dishes. And at the end of the event, he's handed me the chafing dishes and he said, here, go start a catering company or something.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. And then I'm like, now that all of a sudden, I guess I was kind of working part-time at a mortgage firm or something. Because I remember going in and then being like, oh, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, well, I catered a party. Oh, I know somebody who needs some catering. And I was just like, well, I'm not really, And so immediately I got calls and it was like, well, I heard you do catering. And I'm like, well, no, I don't really, but what do you need? And the very first catered event I did, I swear to God, was 250 people.
What?
I didn't even know what that meant. I had no idea how to even prepare.
Oh my God.
I had like 3 people helping me, like for a 250 person event at a school. It was, looking back, I would have been terrified had I known any better.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
And so,
how did that go?
We pulled it off.
You
Everybody
pulled it
was
off?
happy.
All
But,
right. Yeah.
oh my.
Yeah.
How do you think it went?
That's quite an education.
Yeah.
I would
well,
say.
I just like to dive in at both feet.
Apparently this is a theme, isn't it?
God, I know.
Yeah. It's like you getting thrust into these situations and being like, okay, sure. All right.
Yeah.
Not like pushing back, not being like, do you have somebody,
Yeah.
can I work with somebody else? Just like figure it out, make it work, right?
Seriously. Yeah. And so that led me into, then I remember walking into the wine room. I was 9.5 months pregnant. My other son was born on March 8th, right? So I was like maybe March 1st or the end of February. They had just opened. So walking in there and she looks at me and she's like, you look kind of busy. And I was like, no, it's not really going to be like that. And I kind of explained my scenario. And that's when all of a sudden, like, I get thrusted into the world of cheese.
Wow.
I got thrusted into the world of cheese and catering all on my own, learning it by myself, like all the things from that life-changing situation. Like where, I was so lost. I was so broken. I didn't even know what. I couldn't even take care of my own kids.
It's such a tough decision to make, right?
The hardest decision of my life and also the greatest one that I've done.
Yeah.
And that boy now is 17 years old, and it has always been a very open. He looks identical to me. His mom just called me today, and she's like, "Hey, he's not doing good in school. Like, can you talk to him? I think it's time for you to step in, and if he'll listen to you, like all this." I was just like, it was such an amazing situation, but it became the most powerful moment of my life because look at everything that evolved from that.
Yeah.
So when people assume that like daddy bought me a cheese shop,
nope.
it is, yeah. And most people don't know that story because all you need to know is that I've worked hard.
Right.
That I've clawed my way to get to where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that's all that people need to know.
Yeah.
But also it literally came from that. Like really, and I think that the Lord blesses you in ways, and the moon, the stars, the energy, whatever it is that you believe in. Like I have faith, and that got me through all of this. So it's interesting because I constantly have to remind myself of that, and I constantly have to remember that I was. This happened for a reason, and when I want to quit and burn it all down.
Sure. Yeah. There are days like that, I'm sure. Yeah,
and that resilience that you spoke of earlier, like if I had somebody at home like supporting me in my dreams and everything, man, I'd have quit a long time ago. But I don't. And I have just done this on my own.
Yeah.
And Jaden just graduated from college.
Wow.
Last Friday or the Friday before. College.
So I was congratulations
able to
you both.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and it's like all the opportunities that have come because of that.
Right.
All of the ways that my life changed because of that. All of the ways that East End has been everything to me because of all of it. Yeah. So it's just fascinating. And East End was 2013, right?
Right.
We're talking 2006. I started this whole journey.
Yeah.
So I was at it for quite some time trying to figure out what my direction was going to be with this, making no money doing it, but just carving out that passion.
Yeah.
And then, and now it's been 10 years at East End.
Just like that, just 10, all of a sudden, just 10 years, right?
All of a sudden, just like that.
What a ride.
Isn't it crazy?
I mean, so far. Yeah. And I mean, thank you for sharing your story. And that is...
It's as deep as it gets, guys.
That's absolutely. I mean, what a profound decision to be in that, in that situation, to make that decision and to make the call that you did and find a place for your son that was going to work for you both, right? And the fact that these other things, this job, this calling, kind of found you, and
sure did.
That took up your time, which you needed to do, and your energy.
Redirect,
right?
So that I didn't have to focus on the healing.
Yeah,
that I could focus on something new and something bright and something interesting, and something that I could put in my hat for something, and I could develop it my way.
Yeah. And still be there for Jaden as well. I mean, that's like, you got to prioritize when it's you and another person.
Yep.
That is like, he's at the forefront of every decision, right?
That boy was doing all kinds of dishes back there.
Yeah.
You remember him.
Totally.
He was 14 years old when East End opened. And yeah, man, I had him back there all the time. I mean, he worked at East End for many, many years. So.
And what a good education for him too. Just like kind of knowing what that industry is like, right?
Sacrifice, hard work, determination. Nothing's going to come to you. You got to go and get it.
Yep. You got to show up. Like, people are counting on you to open up shop, to get things like done the way that they need to be done. And every job is important. All of this kind of factors into a successful business.
Yeah.
All those pieces have to be in place.
Yeah. And let me tell you, when COVID happened and I was like, oh my gosh, I have an excuse now. I don't have to get up. I can just sit right here. Oh my gosh, this is going to be great. And 2 weeks of it. And then we were like, oh gosh, when are we going to get we're going to get that truck together. We're going to go ahead and get
we need to work.
Yeah. It was like, I was just as eager to get that delivery system that we put together for the community. I was just as eager to get that going and to be there and to make sure I had everything that I could on that truck. Yeah. Like, can I get wine on there? Oh, I can. Okay, great. Like, I mean, like I did everything I could to make as many, put as many opportunities out there for that. And I mean, I had 2 weeks of a break and then I couldn't wait to get back into it, so it's crazy.
When we have downtime, I had a period where I was unemployed, and it shifted my perspective on work altogether. Like, we are meant to work. It is not a comfortable thing when you don't have like a reason to, like, when you wake up to not be in service of somebody else in some way or not have a mission. It's like, you can only kind of spend so many days floundering and relaxing before you're like, oh, this isn't right. Like, I need a calling. I need some kind of schedule or structure to my life. And ultimately, we need to do some work.
Yeah.
Like, we really do.
I think it's like, there comes down to like a sense of like guiltiness.
Absolutely.
For not doing something, and then the stress and the this and that. And I really kind of, the last 2 days I've worked from home. I haven't gotten great sleep. But whatever the things are that kept me kind of at home and not super motivated. And let me tell you, last night, like, I was tossing and turning and stressed out and tears. And why am I doing that? Like, and it was just like literally the pain of staying home for the day.
Yeah. And having that extra energy that usually is used being at the shop, being on your feet, moving around, getting stuff, right? I
was just like, you've got to take control of this. This is ridiculous. You know, like all this just fear and anxiety and stress. And it's just, and there's a lot going on and other projects that I'm involved in. And there's a lot to be stressed out when you're a business owner, for sure.
Yeah.
But
But you have to be the gatekeeper of that, because it's not helpful. It's like, you can only control so many things. Totally. And it's then like, you realize that you have to make certain calls at certain times, but to stew about it or to keep kind of playing it through your head, it's like, you really have to be the gatekeeper of that and put your energy somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we fall into those traps. Like, energy is such a huge thing for me. just kind of understanding when it doesn't go somewhere that it's supposed to and it doesn't feel helpful or useful, it's going to go some bad places, and you see patterns in people's lives where that happens. It's like they worry, they feel like the world is against them. There are, just any number of things, and obviously mental wellness factors into it a great deal, and chemical, things that go on inside of our body. But it, a lot of it does kind of start with our way of thinking, because you can spiral pretty quickly if you are not careful.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help anybody.
No. No, I've been trying to do like more breathing exercises and just having quiet time. And even last night, as I was going through that like head turmoil, as I tossed and turned and hot and cold and all the other things that kept me like awake. And I finally was just like, you've got to rest your mind. Like you've just got to do it.
Yeah.
And I, did some breathing exercises, and before I knew it, it was tomorrow morning. So today,
that's it, right?
But it's just interesting, just taking a day off that was unexpected. It was unplanned. I didn't really take it off, but I also didn't really work. And then there's just that guilt of like, you've got so much stuff to do. Like, why can't you be motivated today?
But some days you just have to recharge, right?
Yeah.
You just have to regroup.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you do have other things to do. But it's like those things can wait. It's like what's going to happen? What's the worst that could happen, right? And that may be a hard question to ask when you're like, well, my business could close, right? That's a terrible thing. That would be the worst thing.
Yeah. Oh, I think about that day.
Yeah, you do?
I do.
In what way?
I mean, just like one day it will, and what will be the thing that does, and how does that, it's hard to not think about it when you have so many different things that are, going on. And this last couple of years has been, obviously so wacky for the whole globe.
Yeah.
But it puts things into a lot of different things into perspective and makes you think of things that you didn't think before, and really where happiness comes from, and is what I'm doing making me happy, and would I be happier, where the grass is greener, proverbial like grass is greener situation. Like and would I actually be happy in other arenas?
Yeah.
Would I be happy working for somebody else?
That's a big one. That's a very big one.
But yeah, it's just you always think about that. But yeah, don't worry, I'm not yet.
But these are the things that we think. If this is solely you that owns and operates this, so all of the management decisions, all of the staffing decisions,
all of the financial stress,
all the financial
and burdens.
stuff. Yeah. So unless you were to say like sell the business or something like that, there are other options than just closing it down. But just thinking about how it goes when you are in charge of it, and then what could be the alternatives, and not to make the wrong move ultimately. It's like if this is still feeding your soul and you are happy with it, and you're making that good impact on society that you want to be doing, there are rare opportunities where we get to do that.
It's true. And this is the time in my life right now where I finally have truly empty nested, and I can focus on me.
Yeah.
I've not been able to really do that as much. And
That's
obviously,
a big shift, right?
Yeah. And obviously he's been in college the last 4 or 5 years or whatever it was, COVID. Thank you. We took an extra year. Not a big deal. No judgment. But you still are tethered to the responsibility of, parenting to a degree, even when he's, away. The last, 3 years that it's been that I've actually been, kind of on my own, 3 or 4 years, it's the first time ever, really. So it's, I've been able to kind of put the pedal to the metal, so to speak. And then COVID happened, and then that turned everything upside down. And now it's been the regroup and everything. And now everything's doing well. I mean, thank God East End is what it is, because it really could have gone 100 other different ways.
Of course.
And there are so many businesses. I mean, plenty of ones at East End that didn't last, that closed up shop. Can't blame them, you know? And when Jen Cunningham from B3 called me last year and said, we're closing down shop, we want to give you some of our employees or whatever, do you have any equipment needs to, and I remember being like, God, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. And also I honor you and your decision and who you've been in this community and how hard you guys have worked and how much B3 has been so celebrated in this community and how much you've given into it. And what a hard day it is when you make that decision. And I just remember being so supportive, and especially on their last day, going in with flowers and everything for her, and but also too being like, God, I'm a little jealous.
Yeah.
Like, but they've got a different scenario, right? They've still got young kids, and they're trying to like spend that family time that you don't get to have when you're running restaurants.
Yeah.
And I get it. I fully get it. And then it comes back to me, and I'm like, you got nothing to do.
Yeah.
Get your butt to work.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that again, that energy has to go somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And they were so busy with B3. Like, and I could tell that was the right decision for them, kind of based on where they were with it, how long they've been doing it, staffing is difficult.
Oh gosh,
things
it's so hard.
Are really just, the world kind of feels very uncertain right now. So people are like, well, I don't know if these are my last years, not to get super bleak, but there are times when it has felt that way, and especially those of us that faced medical struggles is like that was a very real potential reality for us. It shifts your priorities, and hopefully in a good way. It's like I started this podcast as a result. It's like I need to put my energy into things that make me happy and feel hopeful, and connecting with people and promoting other people. Like that's super important to me, and it always has been. So this is like, it's just such a great way to do that. So I feel very lucky.
I'm feeling lucky I get to sit here and enjoy your energy while I'm finally on your podcast, because I know you've asked me for like a long time, but it is important to find what makes us happy. And it is, it's important to also though note that sometimes that can still feel like a job, but with perseverance, that's where things become successful. And, the words of John Rife always ring in my ear every time I'm like clenching my teeth. And he told me from the very beginning, Tonda, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And I'm like, yes, John, I know. Keep going, So I'm very grateful to have been asked to participate in such a beautiful opportunity here at East End, but furthermore for that awesome opportunity to be located in this town, in this part of the city, in such a vibrant, cool, eclectic. So proud to be a part of this neighborhood, like kind of community.
Totally.
It's so rad. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to, I feel a sense of responsibility. I feel a sense of community pride, but also a sense of like, I would be letting people down if I close my business.
Yeah. It would change things, right?
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Not just for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And not just for your employees too. Those are all things to think about for sure. But the impact on the neighborhood, on Orlando in general. The inspiration for East End Market actually came from Seattle. It was a market that Gabby and I had visited in Capitol Hill called Melrose Market. And the cheese shop in particular...
Calf and Kid.
Yes, Calf and Kid. R.I.P. Calf and Kid.
I know.
So sad.
Another story, though, when you realize that the business model is so difficult. And I literally read her article. I think it was in Culture Magazine or something like that, or maybe it was just online. But I was like, girl, I got it. I know. And it was influential. Her story, her style of her shop, everything was influential for me to start. And then so when she closed it up, I was like, there was like a little piece of me that kind of, yeah. So she doesn't even know me. Like I've never even spoken to her.
Yeah.
And yet it affected me. So like, you never know your bandwidth. You never know your outreach. You never know the people that are looking up to you, that are inspired by you.
That's incredible.
It's a huge responsibility and it's a huge honor. Yeah. And it's just not something that I take lightly.
Good. You shouldn't. No, these stories, they do carry on beyond our community in ways that we don't realize. And it's like, it's what you put into it too, right? It's that passion, it's that love, and that chemistry. It just, I don't know, it really elevates it when you have somebody that's taken the time to really learn and will listen to the customers and find out, what are you interested in? What do you love?
What do you like to drink? What are you going to drink tonight with that cheese?
Yeah.
Like, do you not care? Or do you have a preference? You're going to be drinking champagne? Oh, let me please give you the right cheese in. Yeah. And I love that people know that about me and they're like, okay, so we're doing like an Italian theme or we're doing a French thing, You
get to be like a party planner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I always was, right?
Right.
But I really get to do it with their food. Yeah. And sometimes people, don't want to have to think about it that hard. And there's no reason, no judgments there.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's your job partly too, right?
Enjoy it all. Here's different things, but it is fun when I get to kind of say, here are the things that I think. And I actually had one of my friends who has a boutique hotel over in Manchester. And he sent me a message the other day and he's like, I'm doing a wine, cheese, and chocolate class. Can you help? And I was just like, all the things I could do. Like, yes, here's what you could do for Stilton. Here's what you could do for I went through the whole thing and he sent me his tasting notes and I was like, perfect.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's just, I love that people respect my opinion on it.
Yeah. And it's a real thing. There is, certifications that you can get for tastings and things like that. But if you have that experience and you know what direction to go in, cheese can be paired with so many things.
Totally.
Even coffee, right?
Yes.
Like people don't, like once you realize just all of the things, it's like the fruits, chocolate, wine, obviously, but beer as well. Whiskey. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Do you remember when Little Indies did the Scotch of the Month Club? They did Ladies Scotch of the Month Club. You probably don't remember because you weren't allowed to go because you're not a lady, but I know Gabby was there.
I remember because my lady was there and I was very proud.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had Ladies Scotch of the Month Club. How rad was that? And I remember bringing cheese for a Macallan tasting that we did one time and being able to, just hit it the right way for those kinds of scotches. Like how fun.
That's so fun. And it's so memorable too, those kinds of things. And you've done tons of events in the neighborhood. You've done Bastille Day, the wine and cheese pairings there and the dinners there. You've done the after party for Mid-Century Modern Home Tour. And that was in East End's Apex, the upstairs event space.
Was it a garden tour that we did at Palmer's, and then we had an after event there too?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
All of those. It just, and that builds the brand and that builds the experience for people. And, some of those things that they're just like, there's so much magic in cheese. There's so many fun things that you can do with cheese.
Yeah.
Once you kind of like dive into it, it's like there's I made a list because I'm like,
let's hear this.
Yeah. So poutine is one that people don't think about. Fries with fresh cheese curds and gravy. Obviously, charcuterie or charcuterie, fondue, souffle, raclette.
Yes.
Also known as the melty scrapey.
Yes.
Gruyere on a burger. Just a cheese toast at home as a snack. All the grilled cheeses that you make.
Yeah.
Doing a vertical tasting of cheese of the same type of cheese but aged differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Hook's cheddar. Hook's is so well known for their aged cheddars, and the Hook's family does their cheese production out of Wisconsin, and they have like the 5-year, which I don't even have a 5-year cheddar in my case right now, but then they have a 7 and a 10 and a 12 and a 15 and a 20.
Wow.
And it's
that thunder was just perfectly timed.
And it's amazing when you get a bite of a 20-year-old cheddar. But it's really amazing to do that kind of vertical taste.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. Just the strength of the cheese comes through, right?
It's just
the longer it's aged.
Yeah, it does, and the crystallization as well too. But still, how a cheddar can still be so creamy. But yeah, the flavor is just so intense, and it's incredible. But yeah, to be able to find cheesemakers that do that is really cool.
Yeah, and there are something like over 1,800 types of cheese, and basically about 13 territories that are kind of known as sort of the best regions in the world for cheese. And obviously the U.S. is pretty vast in its kind of different cheese spots: Wisconsin, California, Pacific Northwest, Vermont, right. So it's just interesting learning about, all of people think of Swiss cheese as one thing with the holes, and there's so many types of Swiss cheese.
Like, I just don't like Swiss. And I'm like, you don't like anything from Switzerland?
Right.
Like,
yeah. And that's part of the education too, because it's like we were taught that Tom and Jerry, they will, there's a scene where there's going to be a Swiss cheese, and Jerry the mouse goes into the hole, and there's a whole thing that happens, right? That's the only Swiss cheese that some people think of.
Right. Yeah, very small box that we have known here in America, because, we're a young country.
Yeah.
And these traditions have been, 10,000 years. Is that what we said earlier?
Correct. Yeah.
So,
imagine if everybody thought American cheese was just that slice, the Kraft singles.
Yeah, correct.
Like, that's the only cheese in America.
Yeah. Well, and people will be funny too, and they're like, "I bet you have no American cheese in your case," and they're like, being just kind of funny.
Sure.
And I'm like, actually, half of my case is domestic.
Yes.
And it's like right back into that because yes, do I have a ton of domestic cheeses? Of course I do.
Right.
I'm gonna celebrate what we do here in the United States first and foremost.
Yeah. People love to dog on Kraft singles, though.
Yeah. It's a easy to dog on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not real cheese.
And I grew up on that too, mind you. Like, Velveeta and totally.
Yeah.
Or whatever deli slice, American cheese, being sliced at the deli. That's what we had on our bologna sandwiches.
Yeah. Colby Jack was like the first exotic cheese in my life. And I'm like, this is really good.
Yeah.
Or like a Monterey Jack or something like that. It's like that. Those things are just not even scratching the surface once you kind of figure out like what the really good cheeses are that are out there.
Or the question I always liked too is, how does the cheese become white? How is the cheddar white? And I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. What color is milk? And they're like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, it's the other way around, But it's like we're so trained to like, this is all we know. This small little small little box.
Absolutely. And I feel like part of it's by design, because some of our cheese, like the mass production cheese, is such an inferior product that they don't want us to think about what goes into making that.
Maybe. But also that artisanal cheese revolution in the United States really hasn't. I mean, when I first got into the industry in 2006, I remember when the American Cheese Society competition happened that year. I remember Cabot Clothbound winning that year. At that time, I think there was like 100 entries. There's like thousands now.
Yeah.
Like, and that's in the time that I've been in the industry. Like, sheep milk production in the United States is less than 20 years old. Think about that.
Wow.
Sheep have been making milk and providing for Pecorino and Manchego and like all these cheeses, Roquefort. Like, this is like what has been going on across seas for hundreds of thousands of years, right?
Right.
And here we are now just...
we're catching up.
We're
very young. We're catching up.
Yes. So
we can be very stubborn about learning things, and we're catching up. Let's just be real about who we are, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's been beautiful, actually, to have been, I feel like, a part of it as it's been revolutionizing.
Yeah.
And to kind of watch how the industry has changed over the last almost 2 decades, is it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just happened to be this, working in this little place who was just like, okay, this is what you're going to do now. And I'm
So
like,
cool.
Okay.
It is an exciting time, right? For it to see those changes, people gaining that appreciation, and you getting to be part of that education, that appreciation, that it just kind of changes our perspective, right? It's amazing how food can do that, and how it brings us together, and how sharing a cheese plate is such a magical thing, and the fact that we get to do that, it's like, these are the things that we should be celebrating, and paying more attention to than the things that kind of drag us down. It's like, this is a celebration.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have to do anyways. We have to eat.
Right.
So we should just find the celebration in it when we can.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's fun too, because it's one of those things that people almost feel like even more excited because it's cheese. It's like, or, the whole charcuterie board with all the things and it's amazing how much people's face light up.
Yes.
When they're like, you do what? Like it's
magic,
yeah,
right?
And it's there's these endorphins that get released.
Yep.
People are just like, I need the cheese, and it's awesome. But yes, it is just food, and I've always taken a very simple approach to cheese and wine, and a very playful approach. Like it's just food. It's just food.
Yeah.
It should be enjoyed, and
have
it's sexy.
fun with it, right?
And oh my gosh,
yeah,
totally have fun with it. But it's not so bougie that you can't hang out. Like, I'm not a pretentious person, in my sneakers and my t-shirt, my flip-flops.
Very approachable.
And the subject should be too.
Yes.
And can it have a bougie kind of allure to it? It can.
Yeah.
Can you go to places and be very posh with it? You can. And also, it's just back down to farmers,
right?
Making cheese. It's just food.
Yeah.
And it's my job to let people know how and what to enjoy it with, and I've always just that's been the biggest joy is the education, the introduction, the watching people's face like light up, and then being like, okay, and now put this in your mouth, and now wash it down with this, and like. And watching the magic all happen and their face, and it's just like, yeah.
That is one of the coolest things. Yeah. And it is like cheese has, as you said, that dopamine response. It triggers that reward center in our brain.
Yeah.
And there are parts of it that are just so good for you too. Like the vitamins, the nutrients that I was reading about eating cheese at night, and how low fat cheeses have tryptophan.
Yes.
So that helps with the serotonin.
Yes.
So
Your
you actually
dreams.
sleep better, right?
Yeah, and the crazy dreams that you can have.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the beneficial parts of it, and then like the fact that it can also almost have that intoxicating effect, right? Like that's just one more reason to gravitate towards it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
So what
legal.
you're saying is I should have just had cheese last night.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. That might be the answer.
Yeah. Well,
Which cheeses would you recommend for that, for a good night's sleep?
for a good night's sleep,
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you're drinking.
Of course.
Like with this Sauvignon Blanc that we're enjoying right now, Michael, I would.
It's a delight.
Yeah. Are you enjoying it?
It is really good. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're so welcome. But, with something like this, I mean, a nice goat cheese, something light, something that the acid will play off of one another. Like you wouldn't want to have this bright acidic wine with like a brie. The funk on the rind would just be terrible with that.
Yeah.
And there's other cheeses that it could go with, but what I'm saying is like, sometimes you want to actually pair some of the elements together. And when you've got something super racy and acid forward, then finding a cheese that also kind of mimics that really kind of helps things play together. But I digress. If I was getting ready for bed, actually one of the cheeses that I have, it's kind of like my breakfast cheese, or sometimes it's the nighttime cheese because it's kind of like dessert. And we've got this, it's called a mango ginger. It's a white Stilton. So it's kind of a fruit forward. And I literally will eat that as like my dessert at night.
I love a good dessert cheese. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so underrated. You don't see it on many menus, but it should be there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cheese in general can be really desserty, and certainly a way that I love to do it with chocolates and whatnot. But
It helps you digest as well.
It does. It does.
So
Kind of
many
like a warm
benefits.
glass of milk.
Right?
Yeah.
I know that's such like an old timey, it's like when we were growing up, like that was such a thing. And you don't really hear it anymore, I don't think.
No, but
just doesn't sound appealing, I mean, I'm sure I've had it at some point in my life, but there was a time when I was drinking a lot more milk just on its own, and I got burnt out on it, honestly.
Well, and as we age, I'll get scientific with you again. As we age, we lose the enzyme that helps us digest milk.
Okay.
So the lactase starts to kind of disappear, and then that's where people start to actually develop intolerances, because as young kids we are we're taught to drink milk. I mean, from nursing to bottle feeding to cereal, whatever. And milk is good, makes your bones healthy, your teeth, blah blah blah. And our bodies kind of lose some of those digestive enzymes. The same way that calves do. So when a baby cow is born, it needs its mother and it nurses from its mother for the first 2 months, and then they wean the calf from the mother, and then the calf no longer drinks milk.
Yeah.
Because cows don't drink milk.
Right.
But they do when they're young. And then as the cow continues to grow, it loses that enzyme, and it's the same thing that our bodies go through.
Yeah.
So just kind of I still drink milk. I limit my dairy intake now simply because everybody makes me feel like I should. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll get on this like oat milk kick. And now I'm so addicted. Oh, sorry for that.
Okay.
Addicted to the oat milk in my coffee. Like it's the
delicious.
best
It's so good
thing.
for coffee. Yeah.
I can't.
It's great in cereal too.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. I just love it. But I feel like I'm not getting rid of my cheese or my butter.
No.
Thank you.
No, never. No, same.
So,
Same. Yeah.
but like when I go to Lineage and they're like, what kind of milk do you want? I'm like, I really don't care, because I really don't. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. I would cry if it ever started to.
Indeed. Well,
Yeah.
moderation is important to that, because
Totally.
you don't like hit that threshold where you can't have it anymore. So talking about the science of cheese, essentially from what I studied, 4 components. Obviously the milk, you have the salt, a coagulant, which can be a rennet or enzyme, and then the bacterial starter culture. And then the volatiles give the final taste and aroma of the cheese. Those are the fatty acids, esters, aldehydes, alcohols, ketones, hydrocarbons, sulfur compounds. So tell me about have you made cheese on your own? You've probably witnessed plenty of the makings of cheese, but have you tried your hand at it before?
I mean, I have, in terms of like being at somebody's facility and making cheese with them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's been fun.
That's the best environment to do it anyways, because it's set up for that. You can make those elevated styles too, right?
Yeah, and you don't know really what you're doing, and there's a big, you've got timing issues that need to happen where your pH balance has to be right before you're, going to the next step. And so, you need somebody who can help with that. And of course, I've made like fresh ricotta and mozzarella and stuff like that. But no, I'm not. I haven't experimented to that degree. I know a lot of people have, and they are always proud to come by and show me and taste me and share their kind of creations.
That's cool. Has any of it surprised you? Like, has it been like, that's cool.
I had a friend who was doing a cheese program up in a really nice hotel in Chicago once, and they have this whole environment. You got to have different humidity controlled, coolers and this and that. You've got to be able to allow such coolers and environments to be able to have that microbial kind of energy that it needs for the cheese to be able to age. Like the cheese will get better while it has that kind of environment.
Right.
So yeah, when you were saying, being in a place where it all happens and you've got all of the equipment and educated staff there to help. You've got the fresh milk. You've got all the things that you can measure things. I mean, that's really where it kind of needs to happen.
Yeah.
So I just need one of those more handy, like right down the road.
Right.
So
we don't have many in the area, right?
No, we're not the dairy state.
No, that's true. It makes it a little tough. I mean, we do have at the Monday night market some stellar goat cheese.
Yep, I was just there the other day. Yeah.
It's amazing, amazing stuff.
And a lot of it's raw milk.
Yeah.
So it's you can't like sell it in a retail environment like what I have. But
I think they did get the USDA certification so they can have it in restaurants. I don't know about retail.
Well, it would be worth the phone call for me for sure. Because
indeed. Stop by on a Monday.
Yeah.
Check them out.
I was just there like 2 weeks ago. I got the mushroom extracts from the
Shroom King,
yes,
Florida Shroom King.
Yeah.
Andrew, he's amazing.
So I've been doing it at night and in the morning, and I've been enjoying that.
It's such a solid lineup at that market.
It always is, and again, where I started.
That's right.
Being able to. So when you were saying that the first time you met me, I thought that's where you were going.
Yeah.
The Monday night market while East End was still, under construction.
We met very briefly at Citrus, and it was like there was a lot going on at that night. So I don't expect you to remember it anyway.
I did not. And I'm also pleasantly surprised. Pleasantly surprised.
We were there as spies anyway. So
I love
we were
it.
like,
That's okay.
What's the deal with this lady? So
you know what?
She checks out.
That's what you need to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And I love that I passed the test.
Yeah, we were mystery shoppers helping curate the experience at East End. So
I love it.
It was awesome to be part of that.
I love it. Now I'll see everything
full circle
on the table.
Indeed, right? I know.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, and that's what actually, when John, I remember the day he called me, I remember literally, because I'm such a numbers person, why I have this information in my head is beyond me. But January 26th was the day he called me. I remember driving down to Miami and getting his call. And I was just like, what is he calling me for? And I thought for sure he was asking me to possibly manage the cheese shop that was slated to go in, because there was already somebody in the media that I had heard of that was slated to go in there.
I believe that was our friend Carol.
Winter Park Dairy. No, I just saw.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah, that was another one. Yeah.
No, but I just saw Carol actually, and I knew that Carol was the one that was like, no, go to Tonda.
Yeah.
And I remember I've always recognized that with her and thanked her. And then I saw her just at East End as I was leaving to come here, and I was just like, hey,
She's amazing.
But then I thought of that. I always think of that when I see her.
Yeah.
I always think of that.
Yeah.
But
those origin stories, right? That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big. There's so many full circles. It's interesting how they just keep coming around. Sometimes they slap you in the face, but
yeah, I mean, Orlando's the biggest small town. It keeps us honest, and stories will get around. If you don't treat people well, people will hear about it, and that gets around. It stays here forever too.
Yeah. Well, and I've lived here in Central Florida since I was 2. I moved here in the summer of 76, I think. So, yeah. So
you're pretty much a native.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much. Because I turned 2 in September of 76. So, yeah. So that's a really long time to be somewhere.
It is. Yeah. I've been
how old you are. It's a really long time to be anywhere.
I've been here since 82. So I was 5. Yeah.
Super. Yeah. I always equate it to like if you remember when Disney had the e-tickets.
Yeah.
The little colorful ticket book and the e-rides were like the best ones. Then you've been here a really long time. If you remember Epcot launching, you've been here a really long time.
Yeah, that's true. That's how you know. Yep, that's some Orlando history right there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's good to be part of that too, and to still be here and adding to it, right? It's like it has gotten so much better in so many ways.
So many ways, but to be a part of the fabric.
Yeah. Truly.
It is such an honor to be a part of the culinary fabric of this town.
Yeah.
Such an honor.
It's amazing.
Like that's that responsibility again.
Yeah.
That's that tethering that I'm like, nope, gotta go, gotta get going. Why aren't you being busy? Like,
But it gives it more meaning and more purpose, right? It's like that's part of your drive, is that this isn't just a job. Nobody's doing this to get rich, right?
I mean, it'd be nice if it happened.
Right. I mean, as it should be, but the economy here doesn't necessarily support those who create and put their heart into something.
Sure.
We don't always get to prioritize that way, but it is something that sustains you because it's something that you love and you're giving back, and that just that exchange that happens, right?
All of that's true and has value.
Yeah.
That you can't monetize,
Truly. Yeah.
Because the happiness in which you take from being able to do something for yourself and knowing that you're serving the community and knowing and loving the expressions on the faces when they, talk about your grilled cheese or like, oh, I just need this, like, oh, this cheese is amazing. Like, and that satisfaction is also just priceless. And, I think through growth and through the journey of being a business owner, oftentimes you're trying to find ways to scale the business. How can you create more of this? People are always like, oh, you need to put one of these wherever. Like Nona, Dr. Phillips.
Everyone's ready to franchise.
Asheville, and it's like, yeah, you just need to own it and operate it.
Right.
And I will be supporting cast, But, this would do so well, wherever. And it's true, and it would. And it's great to actually tap into something that would be successful wherever you plant it. And East End in general would be successful wherever you plant it. And it's because of the communal, kind of base. And, you find a little neighborhood in Virginia, home of another cheese shop that I fell in love with along my journeys of loving cheese, and found, this, was kind of part of like the manifestation of my own of this. And I didn't realize it. Obviously, at the time, I was just kind of following where my passion led me. And so anyway, tangent Tonda.
Well, yeah. Well, that memory, that's part of the origin story, right? That experience that you had, and if it were a franchise, and if that kind of shop that you visited in Virginia were just everywhere, you may not have noticed it as much.
You're right.
Right?
And who knows, the people that come and get inspired by my little shop, that I'm got my blinders on. I'm just in the weeds every day. I'm just working.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't put yourself in this position of how you're actually inspiring other people, mentoring other people, setting an example, setting somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool. I actually have a girlfriend. She actually was my roommate at the time when all of this stuff started going crazy. She now has her own cheese shop in Wisconsin.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. What's that called?
It's called the Noble Rind.
Oh,
Her name is Sarah. Hey, Sarah. But I mean, like her boyfriend at the time, now husband, was living here, moved in with me to be my roommate, just like renting a room when I was a single mom trying to figure out how to, take care of my kid and everything and whatnot. And so then she came to visit him and helped him move down, right? Kind of make sure the other woman is, not a threat. And she just never left. And we all fell in love. And she was so awesome. But we cooked together in the kitchen and blah, blah, blah. And well, yeah, lo and behold now. And she's probably been open for, goodness, I'd say maybe 2 years or so. But I remember getting that text, that email, that Facebook comment or whatever. And I was just like baffled and blown away, and also really humbled by the fact that she was inspired by me to do this. And there she is doing her own little thing now up there, which reminds me, I owe you a visit, Miss Sarah.
What a gift.
But I mean, so that kind of stuff though, like, I mean, the gal who owns Cheese Teak in Arlington, Virginia doesn't know me. Maybe she's heard of my name now, but she didn't know that and so it feeds downwards now, doesn't it? So that's kind of a cool thought that we just came up with.
Yeah, we don't necessarily need to franchise good ideas. But speaking of which, you are in the process of opening your second location in Orlando. Tell me about that new location. It's going to be a different focus.
It is. It is. It's going to be more than nighttime focus.
Okay.
There's a lot of different sides to me, a lot of different layers to who I am, and while I'm so grateful for East End and for being able to kind of open up my initial store here, it was challenging in a way because it kind of forced me to be a certain shape. Like, the analogy of the square peg and the round hole, really applied to me in this particular way because, East End was a 10 to 7 daytime market, and I'm a wine and cheese business. And that, that kicks off at like 4:00, or some of us, it's at 11, no judgment. Sundays are fun days, or any day that ends with Y. Right. But point is that, it's more, you think of it as more of a evening kind of geared thing. And suddenly I had to become, a grilled cheese shop and a mac and cheese shop and, just something that served lunch, and it wasn't about dinner. The restaurant was always, to me, to like finally be that evening kind of style of business that I think had I had an open landscape as to what I could be when I was first going into this, that would have been what I would have chosen. Sure. I just was sandwiched into a daytime market, so to speak, in a 200, yes. But so that's what this was supposed to be. A little bit more challenging to my culinary side as well. I wanted, food. I wanted my chef skills to shine, not just in my amazing grilled cheeses. I mean, our grilled cheese happy hour is something that we do every Friday, and now it's every weekend because people want it all weekend long. Goodness. And I mean, that's a fun way to be creative, but at the end of the day, like I still want other food. At the end of the day, this is all about what I want.
Sure. I mean, it's a shared thing, right?
Yeah. I feel like what I want, people want.
Yeah. I mean, you're bringing something to the table that you have the instincts to do it. And the taste kind of follows what you bring along, really. And you're kind of guiding this journey, which is really special. And that's kind of what people are going for, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, that's how it started. I mean, I loved cheese and nobody had it and I needed to teach people about it. And so, it's like, I got into it because it's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I figured, okay, well, if I want it, other people want it because this is pretty awesome stuff. It turns out they did.
Yeah.
So I think that, what I'm trying to build over there, total different vibe.
And what will that be called?
It's going to be La Femme de Fromage. So, right. There's now an umbrella of what La Femme de Fromage is.
Okay.
And then it'll start to break down into more like subcategories where East End Market will become, like market and eatery, really kind of explaining what it is there. And then La Femme de Fromage, tapas and bar.
Okay.
And then we've got La Femme de Fromage, La Boutique, and so that's like another whole thing.
Yeah. And La Boutique being kind of a kitchen supply and sort of other gifts, right?
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, handmade soaps and jewelry and cool books and vintage records and hodgepodge of stuff because stuff is cool.
Yeah.
And vintage stuff is really cool because it has a story and an energy that it comes with. And I respect that stuff so much. And it's just fun. It's just eclectic and really, I mean, truth be told, the boutique was an afterthought because I needed the storage room in the back. So when that space became available during COVID, I need to be able to get my storage unit, which was offsite for 7 years. I need to get this on site, but that's an expensive storage unit at East End. So I had to come up with what was going to be in the front room. So all of it was just a solution to another problem that really needed a solution.
Yeah, totally.
So, and I had no desire or initial thought of having a cute boutique, and well, now I do. And so it's just another facet to the business. Also, just another way as a business owner that you got to be thinking of the things, to make it to make the whole business work. You always got to be flipping into something.
Yeah, it's amazing just those opportunities or those needs that are filled and how that has kind of driven your whole path, really, right? It's sort of like, okay, we need this or we have this available and you can utilize it for kind of dual purpose, right? So it's like you just kind of go where it's going to work and make everything else kind of work better. So that's so interesting that's where La Boutique came from. So that's upstairs at East End. And Peter from Scotch and Good Conversation is there often, right?
Yeah, another fellow podcaster. Podcaster that my business has always supported and been a sponsor for his podcast for years and years. So, he and I have been friends for years and years. So to have him up there is just cool. And now you're getting back into the thrifting and the vintage things and because the Bama Pama line that he always had was just always so cool and hip. And he wouldn't say that he's hip, but I certainly think he's hip.
Right? Yeah.
But so it's just cool. And, also too, just that element of community.
Yeah.
That element of who's who in community doing what that helps support community. And I love that I have him in there. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It was such a treat to see him in there when I went into the shop for the first time. And it's like, yeah, this is just broadening that family, right?
Well, and I had Jess Capali working in there for a while too as well. And she's just such a active member in the community as well. And it's just like, it just feels good when you go into places and you're like, oh yeah, hey. And it's community supporting community. And then it's business supporting people who, it's a cool thing. Yeah. The boutique is literally, I am able to pay for an employee. So Peter gets money. We support local businesses so they get products.
Right.
Also that I can just make sure that I have something that helps pay for the rent of the space so that I have free storage. I win.
Yeah.
Even if I don't make money in it,
Sure.
even if it's a wash, everybody's winning.
Yeah.
And I'm getting free storage, which also means organized, efficient use of time, which
Right.
is, again, the priceless part.
It is. That's the one thing that people don't often factor into paychecks and things like that. It's like, what is the time being used for? And what is your free time versus your work time? And what is your work time actually like for you too?
And how
right?
stressful is it?
How stressful is it? Yeah, because that takes away from your free time.
Sure.
So all of these things, and just like if it's not bringing you joy, then there's probably something out there that will bring you more joy, and finding what that thing is and making it kind of match up with what is needed out there and those sorts of things. Like these kind of stories are so inspiring for that reason, Yeah. And tell me about, you have the Fromageables, which is kind of the Lunchables, but elevated. Tell me about those boxes.
Another solution to another problem. Theme in my life.
There is a theme. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, building cheese boards is so one of my favorite things. And ours are pretty, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but they're like a work of art, and they're detailed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into it. So, they
Very
take us
Instagrammable, right?
Yeah. They take us a long time.
Sure.
And they take me a long time, and I've been doing it for all these years. So put somebody else into the shoes of having to create them for me, because obviously I need to be able to depend on staff.
Right.
But how long do you think it's going to take staff to learn that, feel confident that they're going to do it to the elevation of what they need? All these things.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes to the counter and they're just like, oh, we just want to do a cheese and charcuterie board. I mean, why wouldn't they want to?
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm already working on 4, and I'm only 200 square feet. Like, how can I produce this faster? How can I give them what they want? How can I make it more efficient for me? How can I still not sacrifice all of my artistic, creative design and things, and quality, and still turn out a product? And, so Fromageables was born, because even going through COVID, going down to grazing boxes, which were like little disposable boxes that we do. So, I mean, we've got 3 different options basically of ordering cheese and charcuterie from me. Like, you can order a board, you can bring us a board, we can fill it up for you and send you on your way, or you can pay for a board that we've, went and shopped for and everything, and we can just have it ready for you when you come pick up. Those kinds of things are customizable. They take some time. We can plan it throughout the week and have it done. But it's not just come to the counter and order. Right. And then the grazing boxes became more of a disposable thing, also customizable, more of a set price, not the extra overhead of a board, but still just as beautiful, still just as intricate. Maybe they don't make us, they may not take us as long to make, but they still take us time to build all of this. And there's a lot that goes into it. So Fromageables now became 3 different sizes that we have now, where I know exactly what needs to go in. It's like 6 berries. It's like this many crackers. And they're also more of like a shelf life, because we're not using fruit like strawberries that go bad so quickly, where the nuts are in a little container so that they're not getting stale or soggy.
Yeah.
And so the Fromageables now are things that we can pop together really quick, and they're darling. They look so cute. But I've also got them in different bars around town, like different places like Proper, the new vinyl bar that's downtown, where they don't have a kitchen, but they definitely need food.
Yeah.
And this is an elevated way. And they've got their own boards. Honestly, they just open up my box and they just put it out on their board, add more crackers, and go.
That's amazing.
And we are able to efficiently produce these things fast. It might take us a couple of hours, but we're doing 30.
Yeah.
And then they're stackable, and then they've got good shelf life, and we can get them. We can do 10, 20 of them for our cheese case for the weekend. And then that way, when somebody wants one, done. They're getting what they want. If they want something more customizable, that's when grazing boxes, or then when people want boards. Yeah. And it just, 24, 48 hour notice, we can make that happen. So it's, again, just trying to figure out ways to make everybody happy,
Yeah.
as well as ourselves,
Right.
which is making sure that the product's going out great, quality is there, design is beautiful, and that people aren't just waiting forever.
Yeah, and that's part of expanding your reach rather than trying to figure out a franchise arrangement or something like that. It's like,
I still want that too, but even they will need this.
right.
This is scalable.
Yep.
This is how you teach somebody 15 people who are franchising. This is how you do it. You cut it this way, you do this, you get 48 pieces out of a quarter times 4. Now you get, you know what I mean? It's like,
this is moving towards that, right? Towards
totally,
that goal.
Totally.
That's
Here's
cool.
one wheel of cheese, you're going to get 196 pieces. And that's because we've done the work, figured it out where it needs to go. Here's the picture. This is what it looks like done.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can do it,
Right.
So, but yeah, that's where from a scalable brain now that I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. And that's part of what, as you were kind of alluding to, I think, is that in COVID times when there was less kind of in-person and indoor things, like that's a way for people to kind of grab and go.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it serves all of those purposes and broadens your reach, and having different locations for it as well. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love to hear those kind of stories too, because that's part of what growth means, and in sort of a logical fashion.
Yeah. And it's those kinds of things allow, right, like you were saying, the reach, so now it's just a matter of getting more customers to need these fromageables on a weekly basis. And then there's a delivery route. And then there's, all of a sudden now the Femme name, even out of my 200 square foot store, is able to expand, offering more opportunities for all kinds of people and all kinds of ways to be able to expand. So, so it's cool. This is where the entrepreneur brain goes into full effect. And then this is where it's like, well, hopefully one day I'll make money on it. I mean, but at the end of the day, I'm still challenging myself and I'm still happy doing it.
Sure.
And I'm providing a happy work environment for everybody that I work with, And we cut up in there. It's funny. It's like these, especially the guys too. Like the Monsieur des Fromages is le Monsieur des Fromages. I'm saying that wrong. I'm sure I am. But they're always trying to one up each other with cleverness.
The cheese men.
Yeah, they're so funny. So funny.
That's so important. I mean, having that sense of humor and just having that, the connection with personalities, I like Steve from Gideon's, that's such a key element to his business, is that he interviews every employee and they have to be great to talk to, and just having that like customer focused, just like people that like people, that's going to broaden your reach as well. Just people are going to remember that. They go to the shop. If the person is personable, who is helping them, that makes all the impact. That's the lasting impression, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's definitely something that I think we've definitely gotten better at.
That's awesome. It takes time too.
It does,
right?
and sometimes people catch you on not a great day or not a great time, or in the middle of stress because you got 17 other things that you're in the middle of, and deadlines that are happening, and somebody's waiting on their cheese board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong in a day. But let me tell you, like my team they're amazing. I'm not able to do what I'm able to do without them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finding the right people has been, really the critical element. And I'm knocking on wood, but right now I got a really good mix of people.
I love that.
Yeah, and we just laugh all day, and that just is so helpful.
Yeah.
So helpful to work life,
Yeah.
when everybody leans on each other because it's family here.
It should be fun, right? Because it is food at the end of the day, and it's a celebration of food, and the work, like the serious parts of work, as long as expectations are kind of laid out and people kind of know what needs to be done and the parameters of like what's okay and not okay, you can just kind of let it sort of run itself at that point, right? And just be there as a point person and jump in where you need to, and that's that kind of thing. But yeah, to have that well-oiled machine and to have that team that just like is high performing and they know what to do and they love what they do.
Yeah.
That's key, right?
Yeah. And these are going to be the people that run off into the franchise world and have to go and open a store in wherever, because they know what needs to happen. It's not hard to master everything in a 212 square foot space.
That's true. Yeah.
It's interesting times right now,
Sure.
I can't believe it's been 10 years, John Reif actually just sent me a photo of me at one of my Fox 35 times when I went in there and brought a whole bunch of cheese and talked about probably National Cheese Day, which is today.
Mm-hmm. Happy National Cheese Day.
Happy National Cheese Day. That's
How
why
perfect.
we're talking.
Yeah.
And so the post that he sent to me was to his Facebook land of, hey, here's one of our soon-to-be merchants, crushing it on National Cheese Day, blah, blah, blah. And, so it's cool to still be in this journey 10 years later.
Yeah, full circle, right? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So tell me about the grilled cheese happy hour. You have a different thing on the menu for each grilled cheese happy hour. Tell me about how you come up with the menus for that and some of the different things that you've had for that.
It started out to be just like a way to get people in on a Friday afternoon, and now it's just blown up to the proportion of I just saw the post. We can't have that sandwich anymore because it's Saturday, and I'm like, so now we just make it all weekend long. And it was always also too. It was a way that I was trying. Again, solutions to problems, right? Uh-huh. Solutions to problems. I wasn't a big, our beer, we had, obviously we're known for wine, but we had beer and the beer wasn't always selling really good. So how can I move our beer case? So put a grilled cheese together with a beer because the effervescence in the beer is actually better for the fattiness of a grilled cheese. Like you want something that has that effervescence to kind of wash down, maybe a little hop. Sometimes wine is not really the greatest pairing, and a beer is just kind of refreshing like that. Well, so that's how it all happened. It was supposed to be a sandwich and a beer. Before COVID, we were actually doing a flight of sandwiches. So we would do 3 different grilled cheeses and then 3 different beers. But then COVID happened and nobody wants to share the end of somebody's beer, right? Even though we were pouring into little cups, it just became too much. And this is where, you realize that the stress of whatever thing you're doing is not worth the reward. Even though we had a line down to the kitchen, it was a lot of work on the team.
It has to make sense for everybody.
To be able to do. So, So during COVID, we just moved it down to 1 sandwich, 1 beer, and it's just held out like that. And Cinco de Mayo was a couple of weeks ago. And so we did birria beef grilled cheese sandwich with the consomme that you dip it in. We do a different Cinco de Mayo sandwich every year. Last year we did elote, so it's I didn't want to do elote again, even though it probably will come back this summer because it's so good. You want to kind of, play with something like that. Mother's Day, we did croque madame, right? We're already conceiving what we might do for 4th of July.
Yeah.
And then there's Bastille Day following. So we need to have something that's kind of Frenchy. So we were playing with that. Today being National Cheese Day, we did a truffle sandwich. I've wanted to do a truffle grilled cheese for a long time. Yeah. We made a truffle compound butter with French truffles that I literally still had in my freezer. So we did that. Then we used an Italian truffle cheese called Sottocinere al tartufo, and we blended that down and put that in the sandwich. Then we made a truffle honey with this truffle zest that I sell, which is insane. And we just mixed it in with local honey and drizzled that on top. And then we had a little arugula salad that we did a truffle lemon vinaigrette, just kind of toss. And something about that truffle in the salad dressing that you're not expecting, because who puts truffle in a salad dressing? Yeah. Well, my girlfriend Heather does. And let me tell you, it was the best thing I ever had had at her house ever, drinking the bowl. And so I was like, that's what we need to do. And with all of those truffle elements, it still wasn't overpowering. It was so good. Well, the comments all over social this weekend have been like all the rage. Like, I think this needs to be now a staple. Oh, and it had bacon on it too.
Wow.
I think this needs to be a staple on our menu. We always have bacon.
Yeah.
We always have all these products.
Yeah.
We just need to, it just needs to be a staple on the menu now.
Sure.
Because people like have gone bananas.
People have
for it.
spoken.
They have. and so that's kind of how things sometimes happen, you know? And it's fun. I like that feedback.
Yeah, of course.
I like playing around and figuring out something that works.
Yeah, and you have such a great social media presence too. You do a lot of videos and kind of explain things, and there's a lot of interaction there, and you're able to get that, you know, those comments from people and that feedback, which is such a cool time to be in a small business and to be an entrepreneur, because you do get that sort of personal interaction with people, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
I get sometimes tired of seeing my face on my feed.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll be scrolling through and all of a sudden I hear my voice and I'm like, mute.
It's like you gotta sell yourself. I get it. I mean, it's even with this podcast, like I don't do a ton of advertising, and that just kind of being out there, it's like, okay, enough. But you do have to put yourself out there. It's
Totally.
it's just part of it, right?
It is.
It becomes the total package. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I am the face of the business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
You are the cheese lady.
Yeah, I put it there.
Indeed.
So yeah.
There's no getting around that.
No, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with being Orlando's cheese shop.
Good.
I'm okay with this is my town. Like this is I couldn't be more proud to be in this city.
Yeah.
It's just it's a great feeling to find comfort in just my own like place here.
Yeah.
You know, and my own contribution to what Orlando is and why Orlando is great.
Yeah.
You know, and having lived here my whole life and now being such a part of the fabric is an honor and just something that I love. And it wouldn't be like that in any other city.
Right. I know. And I feel like Audubon Park is so special that way too, that it really does embrace quality and passion for what each entrepreneur is doing in this neighborhood. You know, this is a place for growth. This is a place for connection. Inclusion, all of it, right? It's like, it's been the focus all along, and it just keeps going in that trajectory. And it's amazing to watch.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's
And thank you
special.
for being part of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Of course.
And thanks for showcasing it.
Yeah.
Thanks for creating a podcast that literally just showcases that.
And
you know?
yeah, of course. I'm happy to do it. It's so important. Somebody's got to. And I said, you know, why not me?
I mean, you're kind of the mayor here.
Thank you. I'm involved in a lot of ways, and
You are.
and I love being involved and being a helper, and I don't know, just being that cheerleader. I think that
Photographer,
you need it.
president of the Main Street, like all the things.
Right.
Now the podcaster of this great community. Like, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean,
man.
married to the other mayor.
Indeed, we kind of share that role, right? Yeah.
You truly do. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Truly do.
And it's such a team effort, and thank you for being on the board all of these years as well, and all of your involvement and the events, and just we just keep it going because we love it so much, right?
Yeah.
It's like we find ways to get involved, and even if that changes over time, that's fine. It's like there's always new ways to get involved. So I'm all about it, and anybody who wants to volunteer, go to helloapgd.com and sign up. There's plenty of opportunities for that.
Yes,
Just
please,
get
please.
involved.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you know, the volunteers have it's amazing how many just relationships have stemmed from just meeting people when they're volunteering for something. And now we even have more board members that just signed up who've always been volunteers. And it's just like, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. People care about it, and they put so much into it, and we get so much out of it as a result. You know, it's like, it's a very symbiotic relationship, and it's so healthy. It just really works. So I love it.
Yeah,
Absolutely love
me too.
it. Good.
Me too.
Well, thank you again. And so speaking of websites, lefemdufromage.com. Mm-hmm. Very easy to remember.
Yeah, not as easy to spell.
No, but if you Google it, I mean, there's a lot
Google
of
it.
assistance there. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Cheese Shop Orlando.
There you go. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Just like I tell people with the podcast, I'm like, just do Audubon Park Podcast. It'll be the first thing that comes up.
Yeah.
And on the socials, of course, Instagram and Facebook, also Le Femme du Fromage.
Yes.
So follow and like and all of the things. And,
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Say hi.
Right.
Pop me a note that you listen to this podcast and feedback.
There you go. Absolutely.
Feedback is always good.
Always welcome, right?
Very.
Well,
Very much
Tonda, again, thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today, and happy National Cheese Day.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy sitting down at the table with you, but this has been super enjoyable. Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed. All right, we'll see you soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Hello, APGD. A neighborhood podcast is brought to you in part by Stardust Video and Coffee, Audubon Park's beloved neighborhood cafe, bakery, bar, and meeting place, located at 1842 East Winter Park Road. We're also sponsored by Red Light Brew Pub. Founded in 2005, Red Light is widely known as the source for world-class imports and microbrews. A wide selection of natural wines, plus award-winning beers brewed in-house. A full kitchen is in the works with an amazing menu by Chef Jess Tantalo. Located at 2810 Corrente Drive, please check out Red Light for all things beer and wine and soon food. Our theme song is by Christopher Pierce, and special thanks to Trey Hester for all of his help in making this podcast a reality. We do hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please click subscribe and leave a review if you'd like. We'll see you next time.